Well, for electric vehicles, there's a few associations that are in Toronto. There's two. There's a hybrid and electric car in north of Toronto near uh, Aurora area, and some other places have electric bicycles associations. So it's pockets of different clubs all around. We used to have one here in Durham. It used to be called Durham Electric Vehicle Association, but uh, we had a decline of members. So my dad and we kind of dissolved it and let it go.
There's still a Facebook group by that name.
Yeah, there is, but the actual group no
Yeah, it doesn't
longer
mean-
is active.
No. Glenda, did you have any luck getting your sound going? Nope.
No.
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 When you have an electric car, eventually the battery's going to die.
Huh.
What do they do for disposing of that battery? It's going to be a big battery, right? It's not like one of these smaller batteries that we have.
No,
That's
I
a
don't know.
major problem.
I don't
And
know.
the other major problem with electric cars is if everybody has them, then by charging them, they're going to take the grid down.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I was
Well, one
on.
of-
Anyone watch the British program Top Gear
yeah, I watch it.
or the Grand Tour? Yeah.
Yes.
They Richard Hammond crashed some, I think it was Czechoslovakian or something, supercar that had battery electric.
Yeah.
Caught fire, and it had something like 18,000 cells in it, and it burnt for 5 days. Every time it went out, it ruptured the next cell next to it, which caught fire, which ruptured the next cells, and when they put it out again, it caught fire again. So it went through the whole battery pack.
One of the things they're thinking of with the electric car batteries to make use of them, when they're finished in a car where they can't provide the mileage and the performance, they can still be repurposed for lesser uses where the demands aren't as high. And they're figuring that they can use it for other projects that need electrical power, but not at the same rate that the car would need it. So that was one way, instead of having to tear it all apart, or salvage the materials, is to try and thoroughly use up the battery, because for a car, it'll lose its efficiency after a certain point. When your mileage gets cut down to half, then it's really, you'll be tired of it. You'll want a new battery for sure, because it's just going to be a pain. But I forget, it was on, I forget the news quite a while ago, and it said it was an alternative to, instead of, scrapping the battery, but reusing them in an effective way. So it sounded interesting.
For those of you that drive an electric car, I have a question. If, excuse me, if the battery goes, ultimately, is it cheaper to buy a new car or to get a replacement battery? No, seriously. Like, what is the cost of a battery? Is it that very expensive?
$15,000.
$15,000.
Yeah. I
Half
don't
the
know if
price
you saw
of
the,
the
I don't know if
car.
you saw the article on CBC, but this guy bought a Nissan. He paid $12,000 or $13,000 for the car, and then 2 years later, the battery pooched, and they want $15,000 for a new battery. So I only paid $13,000 for the whole car.
It depends on the battery and depends on the car. He'd bought a secondhand one and an older one. So I think that was part of the issue. Some of them are worse than others, same as anything else.
Okay, all right.
Hydrogen is the answer because it's absolutely perfect. First of all, there's absolutely no pollution of any kind. And you can extract it all from the sun if you want. If you got what I envision in the future are huge solar farms with the solar panels generating electricity and lots of windmills, anything that'll generate green power. And then all you got to do is break water apart with electrolysis. Water is hydrogen and oxygen. So pass an electric current through water and you get hydrogen and oxygen. You let the oxygen go because you're going to need it later. And you save the hydrogen and then run it through a hydrogen fuel cell. And that combines the oxygen and the hydrogen back into water. And the energy comes out as electricity. And it works very, very well. And it's probably the biggest benefit that NASA has given the world is the hydrogen fuel cell. And there's a lot of research being done. And the last I saw, a lot of it is at the Waterloo University, and they've got some new things that they've explored there. And they're saying that they think they can make hydrogen for a way, way less than gasoline, a lot cheaper. And these cars run absolutely great. The people that have them love them.
Wasn't it Ballard Power Supplies? There was a Canadian company that was developing the fuel cell years and years ago, and then they kind of faded out of the news.
Well,
that's what they were making.
That's Ballard, but they've had a lot of research since then, and things have advanced advancing very rapidly right at the present time. This is hot stuff.
Stock's going up good.
Actually, they moved their company in India. That British Columbia fuel cell company. It went to India instead of staying in British Columbia. But they were doing a fuel cell for city buses.
Yeah, they're still headquartered in Vancouver, and the stocks is still doing there.
Mhm.
This is big. This is big stuff, guys.
Yeah, headquarters in Burnaby.
Yeah. No, their stock's doing good. I own it.
Well, now that Biden's moving towards a friendlier environment, that's going to boost all the companies that are building electric vehicles, because they got kind of a roadblock when Trump was blocking, like, was increasing emissions for gas and whatever. It kind of took the wind out of the sails of these guys. But now I would expect, as Biden gets his plan going, that the electric cars and trucks are going to take a bigger stage for sure. And I was just reading a road test. They have a pickup truck out, and I forget which company, whether it was a big name or not. But anyways, it had the equivalent of 1,000 horsepower, from the electric motor. You can't really relate it to 1,000 horsepower in a gas or diesel, but
it's the
equivalent in working ability, 1,000 horsepower. And well, it's the torque that they have, really. So, but it's pretty impressive.
The car's a Hummer.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, it's a Hummer.
Hammer.
It's the most illogical car to start with. You can make it electric.
Yeah.
My son-in-law, one of them, has a hybrid Japanese one.
Prius?
Motorcycles.
Honda?
Honda. He's got a hybrid Honda. And I kind of kid him a little bit about it, because it's a Honda, and instead of being driven by an internal combustion engine, it's driven by an electric motor. And it's got a battery in it. And what happens is that the the engine uses an internal combustion engine to run the a generator, which charges the battery, and the car runs in a battery. And I've been in it several times. It's very nice, smooth, quiet car, and very sporty and sprightly, and it works fine. The only thing is that he doesn't go to the filling station to fill it with electricity. He goes to the filling station to fill it with gasoline. So he's getting good mileage, and he probably is winning a bit, but it's not solving the problem.
The Prius operates very similar to that. If you drive a Prius slow, it's the electric motors that are driving it around. But then when you get up to a certain speed, then the gas motor kicks in, not only to propel, but whatever surplus electricity goes to feed the batteries. So, but if you're driving slow, it works. Like we're out in the country, so the mail guy has got a Prius. And when he stops and starts and goes to the next box, the motor's not really running. He just used the electric motor because he's not going very far, and it's quiet. So he's had, this is his second one that he's had, because he says it just gets such fantastic mileage. He's not putting in hardly any gas, and so it works pretty good. And those gas motors, they can run more efficiently because they can run at a steady speed, which they can tune them finer, and that helps get better performance as well.
Well, several years ago, Toyota ran a RAV4 with a hydrogen fuel cell engine from Alaska to Vancouver in the middle of winter. And the purpose of it was to test the winter worthiness of the hydrogen fuel cell in the system. And the performance was absolutely outstanding. And a couple of guys drove the car from Alaska to Vancouver. And when the weather was good enough and the road was good enough, they were doing 100 miles an hour, not kilometers an hour. And they literally had a ball with the car. They got equivalent fuel mileage to gasoline, and the performance was stunning, and it was just an overall successful event.
Well, I think there's a lot of potential to come. I'm not sure that in my lifespan it's going to be that widespread. I think it'll slowly creep in, but I think it's going to be a while before everybody adopts to it.
I think it'll come pretty fast because a couple of reasons. I had to go to Costco one day. This is before the virus, and I was parked by the propane tank. And I went in and did my shopping and got what I needed, and I came out and I was blocked in because the great big propane truck was there filling their local propane tank. I couldn't get out, so I figured I might as well make the most of it, and I had a chat with the driver while the tank was filling. And I commented and I said, I suppose someday you'll be bringing hydrogen instead of propane. You know what he said? He said, you want to believe it? And he said, it's coming before anybody thinks it is. He says it's going to be soon. And I'm going to make another comment there. Oh, yes. You don't need any pipelines. all these expensive pipelines they're building, you don't need them at all, because you can make make hydrogen anytime you want. All you gotta have is sunlight or wind or normal environmental things. It's a storable commodity, and so you can basically pretty well generate it where you're going to need it, and so you don't have to pipe it around all over the place. So that's another pretty good advantage.
We could see a combination of them being used, for people with city cars using the electric or pure electric. For people that were doing more distant, the hydrogen would probably have more range for you and easier to fill. But I can see changes coming quick, and you just see how many of these cars you see around now. It's amazing how quick they're being taken up.
If you're interested, look up the research that they're doing on the internet. Look up the research that they're doing at the University of Waterloo. And they're doing big stuff there, and they've made some exciting discoveries that increases the rate of hydrogen production and reduces the cost of it dramatically. One of the things that they're experimenting with is using silica, which is one of the most common elements in the world.
Yeah.
Well, I'm keeping my diesel truck for a while just in case. So it's my backup.